given some inject to revive this sector, but there are uncertainties as regards to the paying capacity of the borrowers who have to repay funds. What could happen in future? What quantum of funds or the loans which these companies had made to the borrowers would be bad loans or NPA? We will see in next 6 months. Okay, so now starting with the potential impact which we can foresee on the financial reporting are the revenue recognition, which we have already covered last week. Then the significant impact which one could gather or one could anticipate is the impairment plus going concern. Because if we talk about impairment, there is low productivity on the part of assets. Operations are completely shut down in some part of the industry. The others are operating on very low occupancy. Then the cash flow forecast, revenue loss, we will cover in coming slides. Relating to this is the going concern, because as the cash flow changes, as the revenue pattern changes, there is change in assumptions. Discount rate will change because of the current economic environment, and we need to revise our assessment for going concern of the entity or the CGU. Then we have the section on financial instruments, wherein the classification change would be there, some changes to the hedge accounting and fair value measurement, plus the expected credit loss. Then some preliminary areas where we have the net realizable value for inventory, then realizability of deferred tax, useful life assessment for PPE, right of use assets, etc. Then contingent liability. This will be regarded in case of the contracts which are not onerous, because we need to see whether the existing contracts are loss making, we anticipate future losses, or the contract is onerous. Depending on that, we need to take a decision whether we can create liability or provision under AS 37, or we need to only disclose this as a part of our footnotes. Then we have some disclosures which are required as per Ind AS 10, plus whether these events could be regarded as the adjusting event or not, the impact to be taken in the financial statements, or just disclosure is sufficient. Yeah. So with
Nilesh,
respect to
I'd like to intervene for a minute.
Sure.
We have one more speaker with us, Mr. Karun Nagpal. He is an expert in US GAAP and financial disclosure. So he'll be taking up this disclosure part.
Sure, no problem.
Karun, are you audible? Are you on the line?
Yeah, I am there.
So is it fine? You'll take up the financial disclosure part, or you want to take up any other matter in between?
Sure. I'll add on. I'll just give me an opportunity after each topic.
Correct.
I'll add on.
So what we'll do is you go with the topics, advise the topics, and then he will add value on the disclosure part under each and every segment.
Right, perfect. So after each slide, I'll ask Karun to add on the
that will be very, very beneficial for all of us. You cover it from the India's point of view, and he will cover it from the US GAAP as well.
That would be perfect. Plus, to all the participants, please make it interactive. If you have any queries, or if you want to give you any insights, please happy to do that. Yeah.
Okay. Please go
ahead. With respect to revenue recognition under Ind AS 115, in the last week we have discussed like there are decline in the revenue, right, because of the capacity remain unutilized, shutdown of business. Then there could be force majeure clauses. On the force majeure clause also we had one session previous to in the starting of this week only. Then there are collectibility concern which may trigger the deferring of revenue, not only on the current contract but maybe on the future contracts depending on the credit worthiness of the debtors. Then we have estimation of variable consideration need to be reassessed with respect to the volume rebates. Then we have penalties could be there due to short supply. Then there could be an accounting required for modification or cancelling of existing revenue contracts. depending on the change in scope of the particular agreement or contract. Yeah, so this was all we had already discussed in India's 115. So Karun, if you want to highlight anything from US GAAP point of view, please. Karun?
Is it audible?
Yeah, now.
So that's it. I understand due to COVID, so it has impacted all across the world, and there would be sale returns, decrease in volume discount, and higher discount have to be offered by the entities. So that has to be taken into account, and there may be chances that the loss of revenue would be there, because uncertainty is everywhere, right? Due to the uncertain cash flows arising from revenue. So the revenue recognition standards talk about there is a probable certainty in collecting the revenue is there. So in this case of COVID, so we may have to be very cautious while recognizing the revenue.
Absolutely.
So since we have already covered this Ind AS in depth in the previous section, we will not be emphasizing too much on this particular Ind AS.
Yeah.
So please go ahead.
Correct.
Next. Yeah.
So now the most important aspect due to this outbreak could be an impairment. So let me give you some background with respect to India 36. This standard requires the impairment testing at least once in a year, and as and when there are indicators like the change in the business model, capacity, change in the economic environment, which is the current situation, right? Plus the goodwill and indefinite useful life intangible assets has to be mandatorily tested for impairment at least annually, right? So these point A and B are the requirement as per India 36. Now, India 36 also emphasize if there are change in the current economic scenarios, right? Now, considering this COVID-19 impact, this is like a financial crisis, or what we can say is the financial outbreak to all the industries across globe, because the forecast for cash flow, the budgeting, the operating expense forecasting, then change in the assumptions, these will also change. Then fair value of these recoverable amount of revenues, all will change. With respect, if we talk about assumptions, we have separate slide on discount rate, because the most important assumptions, or I would say the estimate which management needs to do while doing calculations for cash flow models or cash flow forecast for impairment testing, is the discount rate. What should be the discount rate? But given the situation we are foreseeing in India or across the globe, the discount rate should be carefully assessed, right? Now, after impairment testing, the second part is the going concern assessment, because this will have impact on the going concern aspect also. Now, if we talk about the impairment, this COVID-19 would certainly result in the impairment of some of the assets of the industry. If we talk about aviation sector, hospitality sector, very certain. If we talk about automobiles, there could be, because this sector was already under slowdown, right? So this depends on the industry to industry also. For pharmaceutical, yes, we can say there may not be any impairment, but again, we need to test, right? So from impairment point of view, also this is also relevant. We need to see whether only disclosure is required, or we need to adjust our financial statement. So as we know, this the outbreak happened before January, maybe somewhere in November or December, but we had on very few cases in December or November, right? So if we go by all the reports or the news channels or the other reports of the ministries, this outbreak happened somewhere around 30th January, right? So the companies which are following March as an year end, they need to adjust their financial statements with respect to the impairment, if any. If we talk about the December 19 reporting period, since this happened after December 19, so as per India's 10, only disclosure will suffice. So for disclosure, we will deliberate later. Then there is disruption to supply chain because all the areas are impacted, all the industries are affected, right? Then we have reduced workforce availability, maybe 20 to 30%. Some of the industries which are operating may be operating at the 20-30% output level. Then operations are not fully in work. Then market price decrease or increase in some of the cases. Then reduced demand. The most important factor which can play a significant or vital role is the demand, this decrease in demand. So if we take the example of this oil and gas, I saw in the morning in the newspaper like 80% demand is less due to this outbreak for last 21 or 25 days. This is huge impact on the supply chain. If we talk about the oil and gas companies, they will be suffering. Then second level, the distributors or retailer would be suffering. The transportation sector would be suffering. So this is the outbreak on the whole supply chain. Not only particular industry is suffering, but the business scenario in India is suffering. Then the banking sector is suffering due to this. Supply is not there, demand is not there, right? Then due to all these factors, we need to estimate our future cash flow projections based on the change in the assumptions, and this could indicate reduction in the recoverable price or recoverable amount of particular cash generating unit or an entity as a whole. There could also be increase in the cost of production because we are operating at a low level of production, right? Existing suppliers may not want to continue with the agreements. Again, this will move the cost up. We need to go to some other suppliers, maybe in more far areas, right? Market capitalization, yes, certainly would go down. We have seen the Sensex crashing around 10,000 point in last 25 days or 1 month or so. So this, all of these factors collectively will give an answer whether there's an impairment or not. If yes, what is the impact of that impairment? What is the quantum of my assets which are the subject matter of this impact? Then if we talk about the impairment indicators, so any doubt so far or any question so far?
Nilesh, we'll take up all the questions at the end of the session.
Okay. So on if we talk about the disruption, let's say a short-term disruption may not be an impact where we can see any impairment indicators, because some of the industries go for a rotational shutdown for their maintenance and all. But considering this lockdown and uncertainty to what extent this could be, there is an increasingly chance or high likely chance that impairment could be there, right? How the company's operations are significantly impacted, there could be multiple factors which we have discussed above: the cash flow forecast, supply chain disruption, right? Recoverable amount could be less. Now, if we talk about the assumptions, the cash flow model which a company estimate based on the future projections will undergo change due to these rapidly changing circumstances. The topmost part is the discount rate, which we will see in next slide. Apart from these, we need to also see the broad prospectum of scenarios. What could be not only one approach. We need to have a probabilistic, holistic approach. What could be the significant changes in the assumptions in different scenarios? If we are operating at a 30% productivity level, 50%, 70%, or 80%. So we need to have some of the scenarios, and based on that, an answer would come. We cannot have any answer for this impairment from just saying whether this will impact or not. Where we are required to determine the fair value, again, this is a tedious task. considering this economic situation, right? Fair value assessment in this current economic scenario is very tedious task. We may not get the correct answer. We may need to revise our estimates more often, because market risk premium will undergo change, because risk repo rate has been decreased, been slashed. Then there would be change on the beta of the industry. Then alpha respect to the company would also undergo change, right? Now, if we talk about the discount rate, we need to take the discount rate of the company or the industry, which is the question of our impairment testing. Risk-free rate, which is considered while discounting our cash flow forecast, will adjust downward, because given the fact that repo rate has been decreased multiple times by RBI, then due to this volatility in the market, we can expect market risk premium to shift upward. There could be significant increase in the risk rate. Then betas, we need to see what would be the better approach to adjust our beta, since this is looking backward looking, right? So we need to adjust for the forward looking environment. All the betas information we could gather would be for the period which had past, but not for the future. So we need to adjust that beta considering the credit rating of the company, the revised credit rating, the revised credit worthiness of their creditors, of their debtors. What is the loss given default this company could expect from their debtors or from the receivables at the given reporting date. Then alpha, we need to consider the company specific factors. If the company is in the automobile sector, what are the risk factors? What are the risk factors already there, which we have already considered in the previous model? What new factors we need to consider for this outbreak? All these points will need to be kept in mind while we are deliberating on the discount rate. So, Kunal, any insights on this impairment from your side?
Yeah, Nilesh, if you can pass on the screen share to me, I'll be able to explain the impairment in detail. I have a very good presentation on impairment.
So you can share now.
So I had allowed multiple participants to share the screen, so both of you can share.
Okay. So are you able to see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So as we have already discussed, let me just hide it. So test for impairment is to be done annually, right? And so COVID-19 has triggered this, and we have to adjust our budgeted cash flows, and we have to test it for impairment again, and there would be impact on discount rate as well, right? So first of all, like recoverable amount, what would be the recoverable amount in this case? So as per the accounting standard Ind AS 36, it says fair value less cost to sell or value in use. So value in use is the estimated discounted future cash flow, and estimated discounted future cash flow, we would be using the discount rate. So due to this uncertainty, we would have to come up with the discount rate using the entity on specific risk premium. So because the market rate is continuously declining, the risk-free rate, that is long-term government debt bond rate, is declining due to COVID, and so this risk premium may not have impact on all entities, right? So we have to first come up with the discount rate to discount the future cash flows, and then the second part is the fair value. So since the market is volatile, so even the listed securities, we are not able to assess the fair value for those. So it has become very difficult to compute this recoverable amount in this scenario. So we have to check all the market assumptions, whether those assumptions we have used to determine the fair value are correct. So that all need reconsideration in this scenario, current scenario. And another thing is this would also impact the useful life and residual value of the asset. So So impairment has really become a challenge assessing the recoverable amount during this time. If I talk about goodwill, so again, so India's says the same scenario has to be followed for impairment of goodwill in Indian scenario as well as in IFRS. But however, in case of US scenario, so goodwill has to be impaired. There is a separate treatment for non-financial assets in US. So that has to be evaluated. First one has to evaluate the fair value and compare the fair value with the carrying value of the non-financial asset. So in case the carry value is higher than the fair value, then we have to perform the second step that says you have to compute the individual fair value of all the assets and liability in the cash generating unit. And if that is also less than the carry value, then you have to impair, right? So in case of impairment of a financial instruments, so FAS 109 in US scenario and in India, it is India, so just a coincidence. So a financial instrument, as you all know, is a contract which has one party has asset and another has liability or equity in its book. So impairment loss in respect of financial instruments is recorded on the basis of expected credit loss. That came in sometime 2016, but in US that has to be implemented. So that got applicable in period beginning 2020. So I'm not sure how they will implement CECL. So there we call it current expected credit loss. So ECL approach, in this approach earlier we had credit loss. So we were recognizing the loss when occurred, right? Under India's 39. So in India's 9, so it has brought in after the subprime crisis happened in sometime in 2008. And so it has divided into 3 stages, like stage 1, 2, and 3, and 12-month expected credit loss, and from the initial recognition, and stage 2 and 3, it talks about lifetime ECL. And stage 1 and 2, you can directly recognize on the basis of gross carrying amount, whereas in stage 3, you have to recognize the revenue and impairment on the basis of amortized cost. And in case of loan impairment, holidays and deductions provided by the government. So recently the Maharashtra government have issued relaxation for repayment of rent. So this may impact for the valuation of a financial instrument and its impairment. Over to that's all on impairment.
Nilesh, you
Okay,
can
thanks.
continue.
Yeah, thanks. So that was on impairment. Now, if we go on this going concern, there could be significant impact on the evaluation, whether the assessment of going concern we had done in the past is appropriate or not, right? So we need to be sure whether the going concern assessment done in the past period or past reporting period holds good in this current economic environment where the whole of the supply chain across the globe sees disruption, right, among all sectors of the economy. For affected companies, management need to see potential implication, right, which could be the closure of the business activities or not wholly, maybe partly, right? Then some optical capacities, because we are operating at below 100% production level, so we need to use our assets, our resources at the suboptimal level, right? Then there could be a significant our suppliers and customer may be based in the impacted regions, or they may themselves may be the impacted party due to this COVID outbreak. So we need to assess all these situations. As a management, need to take a potential implication of all these situations, of all these conditions. If we talk about from the perspective of group, let's say one large company is there with several subsidiaries, associates, and joint ventures, or branches are there. So if some of these group companies or branches of one large companies are situated, let's say, in several parts of the globe, let's say, which are highly impacted, maybe Italy, China, Spain, or US, right? So company needs to, or parent company needs to evaluate this, whether the that particular component, that particular subsidiary or associate, joint venture, or particular branch will function on a going concern basis, on a standalone basis, or there are threat to the going concern assumption, right? India's 10 also require an entity or the management to evaluate whether the particular company can run on the going, can fulfill the going concern assumptions or criteria for at least next 12 months from the reporting date, right? So since this outbreak has happened somewhere in January, we will be reporting our results somewhere in around July, August, or maybe September. So we need to be sure whether till March 21 can company satisfy the going concern assumption based on these situations, right? Now a question could come, or some of the arguments I have been dealing with is, this is the scenario which has happened, like the shutdown has happened 25 days ago. Sorry, the shutdown has happened 25 days ago. This may last till May 3, or let's say 30th May. So considering this 2-month shutdown, whether we can say there is an threat to going concern assumption. So we are not required to see only the shutdown period. We need to see what is the quantum of effect due to this lockdown will be there on the particular industry or particular entity or particular business, right? So if we are encountering any situation where there is a complete shutdown in the economy, we can expect results or the outcome to be there after at least 6 months. We cannot, it is very early to say what is the quantum of effort, or what effect, or what would be the quantum of loss a particular company will suffer. The results of this outbreak, or the results of the loss due to this shutdown, will eventually come will be known sometimes after 4 to 5 months, right? We cannot say today, sitting in April, or let's say May, what is the quantum of loss a particular company has suffered. That's why all the regulatory authorities has given some relaxation ranging from 3 to 6 months, because we need to consider all these factors in very broad manner. Now, these are the particular consideration or the factors which can lead to an impact of the going concern assumption. Lost revenue, cash flow could change due to refunds, allowance, volume rebates. Then pricing go down. Volatility is there, which can certainly impact the revenue, because we will be recording revenues on the fair value basis now. Then hedging, it's an important aspect we will cover in next slides. So I am not touching on the hedging as of now. Then existing contracts we need to close, or some of the suppliers may opt for force majeure clause. There could be loss of revenue on that, or there could be these could be onerous contract, where we can have losses from continuing these contracts. Then there could be fixed purchase commitment which company has already done in the past, and it needs to honor, or there could be huge penalties. Then ability of particular company to continue on the particular business model on which it was operating in the past. So all these factors collectively will give an answer whether there is any impact, or going concern assumption should be tested, or there is a threat to the going concern assumption which the company has done in the past. This will also this is also important from auditor's point of view, whether we need to include CAM or emphasis of matter in our audit report. Now, going by the financial assets or financial instruments, there could be different scenarios, as I have highlighted over here. There could be delays in repayment of loans, or there could be defaults on loan covenants. This may change the classification of particular loan from non-current to current, depending on the default the company has made. Then there could be change in the terms of the borrowings. We need to see whether this is modification or the extinguishment of the earlier contract, and we need to again reassess the EIR rate, and we need to draw down the EIR schedule. Then due to this high-end volatility in the financial sector market, we need to see whether the fair value loss or the changes in the fair value of the financial instruments can be treated as an exceptional item or not. We are waiting some guidance from the ICI on this, or maybe from RBI, because this will certainly involve the financial sector to a large extent. Then if we talk about hedge accounting, we need to reassess what is the probability that the hedged item or hedged transaction would occur in future. Let's say we have taken one hedging, or we have hedged our future forecast sale or future forecast purchases for the foreign currency exposure. So we need to see whether this transaction will occur in future, or what is the quantum of this transaction that will occur in future, maybe at the reduced level. So we need to revise our hedging to that level in that particular instrument. Then there are changes in the market conditions, right? Future rate may change. This could also impact my hedging. Then we need to reassess the resultant impact of hedge effectiveness. So under Ind AS 109, the effectiveness of hedge needs to be calculated, and the whatever is the percentage of hedge effectiveness, that portion of foreign exchange gain loss will be parked in separate reserve. The ineffective portion will go to my profit and loss account. So we need to reassess this hedge effectiveness due to this outbreak and due to changes in the market conditions. Then fair value measurement. If we have invested in the unlisted equity instrument, again, a dark block on that. How do we measure the equity shares of the companies given this outbreak? Because the risk rate, risk-free rate, betas, alpha, all will change for all the companies. Then we need to consider the changes in discount rate. Other areas also where we have lease contracts, these can also change. Impairment we have already discussed. Then for the future contracts or the new contracts, we need to reassess effective interest rate, because my discount rate will change, right? Expected credit loss we have already covered, Karun have already covered, but let's see what is there. It says we need to evaluate what is the likelihood of occurrence of events which may be high risk of bad debts. What is the expected level where my portfolio could change? Because before this outbreak, we could have assigned different risk factor to different portfolio. Now these risk factor, these ratings will change. We may need to regroup our portfolio into the due to this risk changes and the market condition changes, right? Plus there could be extension in the repayment terms by the borrowers. The banks are allowing the increased moratorium period. So all these factors will tantamount to the changes in the provision metrics, plus the regrouping of the given portfolios of account receivables. So as we have discussed, investment in the unlisted equity shares could cause significant dark block on an entity. With regard to the equity and debt which are carried at fair value, right? We are required to calculate the fair value at each reporting date, right? Now these will impact the carrying value or the fair value considering the entity where it is located. Let's say we have investment in the equity shares of company A. The company A is situated in Italy or Spain, or let's say in Maharashtra. This could impose additional risk because these are the highly impacted areas, right? We can have significant volatility in these type of companies, shares or debentures. or other financial instruments, right? Moreover, the volatility is very significant in the global markets also. So this will have impact on all type of investment. It could be subsidiary, it could be joint venture, it could be associate, it could be one of the branches. All of the investment across the globe would be impacted, and that's it. So if the fair value is based on the quoted price, this should be the reporting date share price, and this is non-adjusting event because it is a purview of, out of the purview of India's 10. Then with regard to trade receivables and other financial assets which are carried at amortized cost, we need to challenge our own assumptions and our forecast which we have done in the past, because there could be significant changes in the credit worthiness of the customers, right? Then with respect to this expected credit loss and the assessing the credit risk of the customers or debtors, whether these have significantly increased or decreased or not. So India's 109 says we need to have these supportable information without undue cost or effort, right? So we need to see the efforts or the cost in determining all these risk factors is not exceeding. So there should be a balance between both these things. However, the standard has not defined to what extent we need to go, right? No, hedge effectiveness is required at the execution of the transaction. Let's say in today I forecasted a sales. Maybe after 3 months, I am entering into one hedge transaction, and as soon as I will I will complete all the hedge formalities. I will calculate hedge effectiveness on that date, and it is required to be tested at each annual reporting date, plus whenever there are changes in the circumstances. Again, this is the economic scenario where we need to test our hedge effectiveness again. We need to see whether this transaction will occur in future or not, whether the hedging is required or not. In case the judgment of the management is like we are not going to have this forecasted transaction, we need to discontinue the hedging at that point itself. If company says the forecast transaction will be there but with the reduced scope, then we need to revise our hedging. We need to rebalance our hedging or instrument. One significant area is debt restructuring. We could see there could be several companies which want debt restructuring due to closed operations, reduced capacity, losing of revenues, high cost, cash flow challenges. All these factors will have adverse event on the operating and financial ratios as well. Companies will not be able to comply with the debt covenants. Thereby, there are chances like the earlier loan agreement may be closed down or maybe restructured into new loan agreements. So all these factors would again increase the cost of capital of the company. This will again relatable to the impairment testing in case of debt restructuring. Tarun, any insights till now?
Yeah, hedge accounting, I would just like to add on. So there are 3 types of hedge accounting which is permitted by accounting standards. So one being the cash flow hedge, fair value hedge, and net investment hedge. So the impact would be primarily on cash flow hedges, because cash flow hedges, let me explain it quickly. So it is an arrangement just to manage the risk of changes in cash flow associated with the probable forecasted future transaction. So, for example, an investment in foreign bonds. So you may be getting some money in the form of interest receipts, right? So that is cash. So to avoid like uncertainty in the future inflow, so we have that type of arrangement, and accounting standard permits that. So company enter into hedge accounting just to avoid the immediate P&L impact, right? So in this scenario, due to COVID, so any hedge ineffectiveness need to be identified, and impact has to be recorded immediately in the P&L. Yeah, that's all. For there is a separate guidance note as well by ICI for small entities who follow a accounting standard.
Correct.
So one may go through that.
So this was now the other preliminary areas are the inventories, income tax, uh, assessment of useful life and residual value for plant and equipment, intangible assets, right of use assets under Ind AS 116, then contingent liabilities. So if we talk about real estate companies, we could expect fall in the prices in near future. Again, this will impact the inventory, right? Because it is the condition which was existed on the balance sheet date. Again, seasonal inventories, perishable goods, there could be a loss due to damage, contamination, physical deterioration, change in the prices. This is the foremost important, because prices will either go down or up depending on the industry to industry, right? Companies need to assess whether there should be any further provision to demark these inventories at the net present net recoverable amount, right? Net realizable amount. We need to write off all the inventories. Further, due to this current situation, we have the operating level below 50%. So the allocation of overhead is also a problem. This could be regarded as an abnormal allocation of overhead. This could go to P&L, and this may decrease my inventory valuation, right? Taxes, again, we need to see whether there will be future taxable profit against which the deferred tax which we have recognized in our balance sheet could be adjusted or not, right? So in some jurisdiction, let's say in US or UK or in some part of the globe, if we have group companies, there could be a tax credit in future or tax relaxation or deferrals. So we need to see how the provisioning of tax will go for these companies. But for India, this will not be applicable, right? So earnings for foreign subsidiaries will also change. So we need to consider what are the tax strategy we need to adopt if a particular company has foreign subsidiaries or associates, right? Now, contingent liability. Since there's a huge reduction in demand, supply chain disruption, losses due to this loss in the economic output or low productivity level, there could be future operating losses on the existing contracts itself, right? Now, as per India 37, the future operating losses are out of the scope of this India 37. They are not required to be recognized as a liability, right? So we need to see whether we can give a note as a contingent liability for all these losses, right? If, however, the current contract is falling in the definition of onerous contract, where continuing with the contract and terminating both are giving me losses, then it can be the subject matter of onerous contract. In that case, we can create liability in our books. So we need to be cautious while dealing with these situations when we finalize the books of accounts. Now we have the financial reporting disclosures. So any insights, Karun, till now on these preliminary areas, or anything you want to add, any other areas?
I can add on, right? Let me start with the fair value measurement. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure people are aware of how fair value being measured, and so let me quickly brief upon that. So
Sure.
in case of fair value measurement, so that there are a hierarchy, level 1, 2, and level 3. So level 1 is primarily market driven, that is unadjusted. Suppose I have Tata Motors share, so I am in my book, so anyone outside can easily assess the value of Tata Motors share. That is categorized as level 1, right? In India, this fair value measurement Ind AS 113 started sometime in 2016, but in US it came immediately after the subprime crisis, so it got implemented early way back in 2011. So level 2 talks about the inputs other than the quoted price. So, but they have direct or indirect market driven basis. Like the data is driving from the market. Suppose let me take an example, asset-backed security. So underlying assets are there, derivatives. So they may be level 2. Level 3 are those in on the items on the where the unobservable inputs are unobservable. So like for example, I have invested in security of an unlisted company. So I may have to use my own models and techniques to arrive at the fair value. So in case of level 3, there are additional disclosures that are required. So the burden would be assessing the value of level 3, because level 1, though the market is volatile, there is a decline, I agree, but we have to take the prices from the market again, and there will not be any impact in our financials. And in case of level 3 especially, we are using our own models and techniques, so we would be very cautious about the discount rate we are using, the credit spread, counterparty risk and all, so that we have to obtain. Let me quickly show you the disclosure. uh, so can you, Nilesh, can you see my screen?
It's visible, Karun.
So I have just now in front of me, I have the financial 1, 2, and 3 is been classified. Right, you can see this is the level 1, 2, and 3. One is market observable. So challenge would be in level 3, because let me scroll down. So in case of level 3, I would have to give the breakout the box from the
Karun, your voice is
balance till
breaking. You need you
the closing actual revenue that we uh,
Hello, Karun.
वॉइस
Nitish,
क्वालिटी का इशू आ रहा है.
is it audible now? Is it
Ah,
audible now?
it is audible, but you have to go through the last slide again.
Okay. Can you see the extract from the HSBC US financial statement in my screen?
Yes, it's visible. I think you are going
Okay.
too far from the system or the device. That is why your voice is not clear.
Okay, okay. I'm near to the device. Is it audible now?
Yes.
Okay. So see, this is the major challenge here in valuation of level 3 items. So where the market valuation techniques and the unobservable inputs are used, right? So the discount rate calculation, the pricing models, the implied volatility. So all these is our internal working. So here I can't rely on my internal assessments. I would have to go beyond, right? What is happening around out in the outside market, and what the instructions and guidelines being issued by the regulators in this case. Because on my own cannot use based upon the credit risk. I cannot assess in case of a loan. I cannot assess the value, because something outside world is following different approach. So I would have to be rely upon the instructions and guidelines issued by the regulators in this case. So coming back to my slide. So in case of entity where accounting standard 13 is applicable, right? So fair valuation in that case, so investment is classified into current and long-term investment. And in case of current investment, so we normally do mark to market and recognize its MTM. And in case of permanent investment, long-term investment, where we intend to hold it for a longer duration. So in that case, as per the Ind AS, I have to make the impairment calculation using the same approach we discussed earlier, the recoverable amount and the value in use and the fair value. That's all, Nilesh, on fair value measurement. So other topic, maybe you have touched upon the modification or termination of contract. So due to there may be several contracts which may come across, get uh, parties would be willing to terminate those contracts and maybe willing to change, modify the terms of the contract. So we would have to assess the that on case to case basis, we would have to assess the impact on for that. And in income tax, I think you already touched upon, so I may not be going into detail. So there were the companies who have DTL in their balance sheet would be at benefit. And inventory has to be carried at NRV. You already talked about that. And in case of a PP&D, so depreciation has to be continuously charged even if that is not, PP&D is not in use. So expected useful life and residual value may get impacted due to COVID. So we would have to reassess. So accounting standard says the useful life and value has to be assessed every year. So we would have to reassess because of this COVID trigger. And so breach of loan covenants we already discussed, and uncertainty. So we would have to report, additional disclosures are to be made. So comparative information. So here it will be a challenge to provide the comparative information because COVID has affected the financial performance and it will be not be fine to compare with the previous period. So additional disclosures are required and additional explanatory notes are required in each of the section. And then the borrowing cost. So in case the capitalization of interest suspend, so qualifying asset suspend, so capitalization of interest should also not be put under the cost capitalized. And post balance sheet items, so for those companies who have their financial year ending on 31st of December, so they may also need to put in additional disclosures after their closure of business books in their financial annual report. Then comes the interim. So interim financial reporting, so it is same as the annual financial reporting, except for there are some disclosure additional in the annual report. So I think same as the annual report. One more thing I would like to add upon. Yeah, onerous contract. So some of the contracts may get onerous and so would have to be tested for impairment. And so losses, also the losses from imposition of penalty due to delay in supply of goods need to be considered. And in case the management is not able to assess whether the contract is onerous, that has to be disclosed. Additional provisioning needs to be made in the financial statement. Restructuring cost you have already touched upon. So entity who have insurance policy to cover the loss of the profit due to business disruption. So claim has to be recorded only after ascertaining the virtual certainty of collection.
This is a very important point. In case the companies are having loss of profit insurance policies due to disruption in business, the claim can only be accounted for in books of account if there is virtual certainty of the recoverability of term. It cannot be on the basis of the claim filed or still yet to be filed, right?
Right. Hedge accounting we already discussed. Fair value has been covered. Financial instruments. So entities to whom accounting standards are applicable, small entities, so they may not have this ECL approach applicable. So they can they have to use the Indian accounting standard AS, old AS. So for loans and receivables, impairment allowance has to be created. For investment provisioning for permanent decline in the value as per accounting standard 28 has to be made. For banking and insurance entities, So they have to follow the guidelines issued by SBI and their regulators, IRDA. This we have covered. Goodwill. Non-financial assets we have covered.
I think most of the points are covered.
Yes, going concern we have covered. I think that's all. So I have a very nice quote from Martin Gruel. So he's a CFO of Raiffeisen Bank International. It is similar to what we have SBI in India. So it is a bank in Austria. So it says no transparency, no trust, no credit, no investment, no growth. So there is a simple logic. Financial reporting is an essential building block for financial intermediation, foreign investment, and sustainable economic development. So at this point of epidemic, so transparency, we can relate it to the disclosure in this scenario. So more and more disclosure are necessary for financial reporting. Yeah, that's all I have. Over to Nilesh.
Nilesh, you want to add something?
So from the disclosure part, I think all is covered. Just we need to be mindful, like we need to give all the impacted areas, plus to the extent we can assess the impact if this is not an adjusting event. If this is an adjusting event, then we need to adjust our financial statements to that extent, right? We need to provide disclosure for nature of assumptions and other estimations as related to uncertainty. What are the changes in the assumptions with respect to the last reporting period? What all have changed due to this COVID-19 outbreak? There should be one separate note for COVID-19 outbreak impacted assumptions and estimates for better understanding of this outbreak on the financial statements as a whole. Because for each and every areas, we will be giving separate disclosure. But it would be better if we can give a summarized view of all these impacted areas along with their change in the assumptions, change in the estimates relating to uncertainties, fair value assumptions, discount rate assumptions, what are the factors considered for impairment, for going concern assumptions, and all of these. Now we can see the auditor's touch point if we have the time, or you want to cover this in next session. We have 3-4 slides, won't take much time.
Please go ahead, Nilesh.
Yeah. So if we talk about the duty or the responsibility ourselves as an auditor, we need to get comfort how the inventory or fixed assets valuation or the physical count would be performed in this situation where the man force or the staff is working from home, who would be performing the physical count, who would be dealing with all these situations, how we can do the rollback checks to ensure the number of assets and the inventory counts or the inventory valuation is perfect, right? We need to compile a list of all areas which involve estimates for the financial statements, and we need to see what all estimates could have an impact of this COVID-19 outbreak, how we need to perform, or how the balance reconciliation process will be performed since the supply chain is disruptive, there are no courier services available, how we can get confirmation, balance confirmation from banks, from customers, from other related parties, right? Then this fourth point we have already covered: credit loss, inventory obsolescence, onerous contract evaluation. We need to sure as an auditor whether the adequate provision for all these have been considered in the financial statement or not. Then the cutoff procedures, this is very important because we will not be able to perform or oversee the inventory count on the reporting date, right? So how we will be comfortable with the rollback procedures or cutoff procedures, right? This is very important for the inventory valuation point of view. Then since we all know the all the companies, all the staffs is working remotely, right? So we need to test on the IT dependent control also, whether the controls as designed are operating effectively or not, or there are some relaxations in the IT process which company has given to their employees, whether there any threat to data, leakage of information, whether all the IT controls are operating effectively under these business these financial crisis situations, because we know for a fact like business are running from different scenarios. Some are working from their home, some are working from their other remote areas, right? So in some of the organizations there are constraints where we cannot accept email from external email address, or we cannot send, whether these checks all are there, or the companies have given some relaxation due to this outbreak. um, some of the companies do not permit their systems to be working on the network other than the company's network, but now the situation is different. So we need to take summary of all these situations to comment on the internal control process of the company, plus the ICOFR also, right? Companies may also face challenge because the staff will not be there. They cannot give access to the physical establishment sitting remotely, right? So how the inventory, physical fixed assets. Now, due to all these situations, we need to see whether we need to report some additional areas in our audit report. We need to include key audit matters, or any material uncertainty on the going concern assumptions if we are not fully satisfied with the company's cash flow models, or the revision or change in the estimates with respect to discount rate, with respect to cash flow projections, with respect to forecast of cost, with respect to the orders in hand, with respect to the recoverability of debtors, all these things. Then we need to see whether we need to revise our qualify our reward, or we need to give adverse opinion, depends on case to case basis. Now these are some of the relaxations which SEBI and MCA has given in past 21 days. The time limit has been extended from 30th May to 30th June for listed companies for their annual report. For quarterly report, for 30th June from 15th May. For LODR regulations, again 30th June. Then they have given relaxations for holding board meetings, the relaxation of 120 days or the time limit of 120 days is now relaxed. Then annual general meeting can be held 30th September. Earlier, the 5 months was there from the reporting date, right? Caro is deferred for next year. CSR funds can now be used for COVID-19 outbreak also. So these are some of the important relaxations which company has given. So that's all. Over to participants for any questions.
Thank you, Nireshji, and thank you, Karunji, for such a nice deliberation. Now I would like all the participants to raise their hand for any query. We have few queries in the chat section, but I think it would be better if the participant take up the query themselves.
Yeah.
That will be more clear.
Hello, Nitish. Can I ask one query?
Yeah, please go, Anuj ko.
First of all, I'm thankful to the speakers who have put a lot of guidance in this aspect of financial disclosure and impact of COVID. Now coming to the query, one scenario has come up, like when client is paying rent to the landlord as per the contract, okay, but now due to this impact, he has made a request to the landlord that instead of paying the rent, because the rent
Anuj,
your voice is breaking. Anuj, your voice is breaking.
Is quite significant.
Anuj,
So what he to the landlord that, hello?
Anuj,
Hello, I
we
can
have not
hear your
we have
voice.
not
Hello.
heard even a single word. Please ask again. Your voice has break.
Hello.
Yes, yes. Please ask again your query.
Now is it
Yeah, it's audible
audible or
now.
not?
Yeah, it's audible now.
My query was that one particular client was paying rent as per the agreement. Okay.
Yeah.
The rent part is quite significant,
Okay.
and it is a body corporate. The client
Okay.
is a body corporate. Okay.
Okay.
Now the thing is, due to this COVID impact, they are making a request to the landlord that instead of rent, they want to make percentage of sales to the landlord.
Okay.
So as an auditor, what is our responsibility in this? Because now rent will not be going from the company books as per the contracts,
Okay.
and they are charging a percentage of sales to the landlord so that they can continue the business. Okay. So I
Okay.
want to understand the role of auditor in this particular case.
Anu, this will happen.
Village,
This
Do
village,
we need to make any disclosure or anything?
village. Before answering the question, it's better you reframe the question for the benefit of all, and then go ahead with the
yeah.
answer.
So a question which we have been asked is let's say there is one entity which is paying hefty rent to the landlord, and due to this outbreak of COVID-19, the operations would be impacted, and company has presented to the vendor or the landlord like in lieu of the monthly fixed payments, some percentage of the revenue could be paid. This was your question, Anuj, right?
Right.
So here Anuj has asked what would be the responsibility of ourselves as an auditor, right? So first of all, we need to see what is the business or commercial substance of this transaction. What is the revenue of this company if we disregard this outbreak situation? uh, what is the quantum of lease payments or what is the quantum of payments as a percentage of revenue this company will be paying in lieu of lease payments, right? Second is whether these are related parties or not. This may happen due to this COVID-19 outbreak. Some of the group companies could reframe or rearrange their contracts in such a way like revenue of one company is flowing to the another company, right? Let's say, for an example, this company was paying the lease rent of 1 lakh per month, but the revenue of this company, let's say, is 10 lakhs per month. And due to this situation, they are negotiating with the landlord. And in lieu of this 1 lakh payment, they say, okay, we will pay 15% of the monthly revenue, right? So if these are related parties, we can clearly see there is shift of revenue from one company to another company, right? So we need to see what is the commercial substance. If this company or this body corporate or this client is doing only due to this outbreak or these financial crisis, there is no harm in this. Just we need to see whether they are adhering to the earlier contract, right? We need to close the earlier contract with all the conditions contained therein. Plus, we need to see the arrangement whether this is fulfilling all the commercial purpose or not.
This is purely
Your voice is again cracking.
contract which was being done by the company. And hello,
Anuj,
hello.
can you please repeat?
I'm saying that they are not related party, and
Okay.
second, it is a commercial contract, purely commercial contract, and
Well,
rent is
then there is no
lakhs.
problem in that. Then there is no problem in that. You can continue with these contracts.
No, contract is being modified, no, due to the impact.
No, but
They are
see,
changing the conditions.
this will be considered as a separate contract. You need to close down the earlier contract, which was for fixed payments, right? you
That
need to
that
see
will be on hold. Yeah, that will be on
not
hold.
hold. You need to discontinue that
Earlier
contract. Right?
contract will be on hold.
See,
Mhm.
this percentage of revenue will be for some period.
Yeah, this is for a particular period of 6 months. But
Okay, so
since
in
it
that
is
case,
linked to the revenue,
no,
so
that I understood. So
yeah,
what will happen is, see, since here my lease payments are changing only for 6 months, right? And after that
yeah,
you will, sorry.
yes, please.
So after 6 months you will again go back to your earlier contract, right?
Yes, yes.
So you need
This is
to,
for a particular period. Some relaxation is being done.
correct. So for this you need to enter into one separate contract with this landlord. Earlier contract will cease as soon as you enter into the new contract. After 6 months you need to again enter into the previous contract. You cannot have two contracts simultaneously.
And what about auditor responsibility? Like we are signing the balance
Right.
sheet,
So just
do we have
see
to make
all.
some disclosures?
So, right. So you need to see whether the accounting treatment is correct as per the both the contracts, because till March 31, 2020, your earlier contract will prevail. From April till September, your new contract will prevail. Then from 1st October, again you will enter into your old contract, right? So you need to give disclosure of all these changes in your financial statement for March 20 as well, because this is the situation, this is the event which was existed on the balance sheet date. You are changing your contracts in the post reporting period. So you need to give disclosure like you have changed this arrangement from fixed payment to the fixed percentage of revenue for future six
Actually,
months period.
this modification of any account, or will it be a general disclosure?
You need to repeat your query.
I'm asking whether we need to mention any reference of a particular AS, or will it be a general category disclosure?
You can mention, you can give reference of AS.
Which particular
Again, your voice is cracking.
Anuj, what I'll do, I'll share the contact details of Nilesh. You can have a one-to-one discussion with him.
Sir.
Anuj, your voice is not audible. What I'll do, I'll share the contact details of Nilesh, and you can ask the question on his from his cell phone. Hello. So the next query will be taken by
Most
Vidya
of the
Khanna.
thing has been clarified, so
Okay,
it is
okay,
okay.
okay. Vidyaji, can you please ask your query?
Okay,
Hello.
okay.
Hello.
Yes, please go ahead.
Sir, I want to ask that whether the counterparty risk will be analyzed after the lockdown, as the current situation, it may not be possible for us.
The day on which you are before the date on which you are issuing your financial statements, but it will reflect the current situation. So let's say the company has reporting date of 31st March, right? And we are issuing our financial statements, let's say on 30th June, right? So we need to consider the 3 months period for this change in the risk scenario of the counterparty.
But is it possible due to the lockdown how to ascertain this? Can you throw some light on this?
Truly speaking, for this listed companies, SEBI has given deadline of 30th June, which we foresee will be further relaxed, right? Because this lockdown has already extended till May 3, and we are not sure to what date actually the country will be out of this lockdown situation, right?
Right.
So, to my knowledge, and there could be some answer we could gather till the time we are finalizing our final accounts. If we are not getting any particular answer, let's say yes or no, we are in between the yes or no, we can give the disclosure itself. That is the best answer as of now. But I am sure RBI or SEBI will give further relaxation for banks and other listed companies as well. So we can have certainly answer on significant risk increase, changes in significant risk.
Okay, sir. Thanks.
Is there any other query? Anyone wants to raise a question, raise a query? I think that's all. So we thank our both the speakers, Nilesh ji and Karun ji. You have truly shared the insights of this COVID-19 impact, and this has helped us a lot to understand how to proceed further and what steps need to be taken by the auditor. And we thank you from the core of our heart. Now I like Aniket ji to address the participants. Before we disperse, I would like all of you to please open your video cam for a group photograph. Just for a minute or two. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Aniket ji, would you like to say a word of thanks?
Yes, I will like to thank our speakers. They have prepared a wonderful presentation and explained things very in a very easy manner, which is easy to understand. And thanks again. And we look forward to seeing you again. What is the time for next webinar?
There is some confusion for the Monday seminar. Tomorrow we are not having any seminar.
Okay.
But I'll share the details.
So we will look forward to seeing all of you again, and really thankful for you to making these webinars a success. Thanks again.
Thank you very much. Oh,
Thank you.
bye bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
I'll share the PPTs to all the participants.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.